I'm a little bit sick, recovering from a cold, so my voice sounds kind of funny. You're gonna have to deal with that. Something I never talked about in the intro is the implication that the gems kind of look down on Steven throughout the entire season. There's a good reason the intro changes when it does, because before the end of season 1, the gems mostly see Steven as a goofy kid. He's sloppy when warping, Garnet ruffles his head like he's some kind of pet, he's at the back of the line, but that shot of him running to the front is what season 1 is all about. He's trying to prove that he's good enough to keep up with the crystal gems, and that he's a gem too. That's a big part of this episode as well. Garnet walks into frame in this shot, and in a later shot, she disappears. If they're trying to teach Steven to fuse, shouldn't these demonstrations involve actually fusing? Pearl and Garnet don't fuse here, so it kind of seems like they're teaching Steven the wrong things. These new stools almost seem impervious to continuity errors. I haven't been mentioning them in any previous episodes because I haven't been able to catch any disappearing or moving like the old ones. I'll catch them someday. That, or I'll have to pick something new inside the house to keep track of. Why is the floor all shiny looking in this shot? And why is the shot at a Dutch angle? Hold on. Yeah, there we go.
I wonder, though, if Steven's body is capable of fusion. Fusion merges the physical forms of gems, but Steven is half human. He's organic.
Organic?
I've sometimes heard complaints about the writing involving how Steven never asks questions about magic or gem stuff, but I think a worse complaint to make is that Pearl brings up the topic of organic life, Steven questions it out loud, and then the episode kind of moves on without acknowledging him. There's a huge conversation to be had about gems and organic life, and Steven was ready to hear it, but no, we have to wait like a whole season for all that.
Who knows what's gonna happen?
Well, I think Steven can do it.
Future vision moment for sure. I don't think Garnet could see for certain what was going to happen, but this moment tells me she definitely saw Steven fusing in the future. Why is Connie here so late at night? Where are her parents? Is she spending the night at Steven's house? I made this point in Fusion Cuisine, but Connie's parents are missing a lot. Maybe they're strict, but they don't seem all that protective.
Can you get them to write out the steps?
No, I don't think it's just about the dancing.
Steven hits the nail on the head. It's not about dancing. There's actually more non-dancing fusions in this show than there are dancing ones. Fusion is about gems synchronizing their forms, and a gem's physical form and their mind are almost one and the same. If two gems are thinking the same thing and get close enough physically, they'll probably fuse without even trying. In fact, that happens multiple times later in the show. Dancing seems to be a way to force a fusion to happen. It's the easiest way to synchronize two bodies, through rhythm. I like that they drew speaker holes on the top of this phone to stop me from asking, how is any music coming out of it if it's jammed into the sand? This is the first time, maybe, that there's a sort of romantic implication between Steven and Connie. Maybe in Bubble Buddies, there's this idea that Steven kind of has a crush on her, but since then, we've only seen them as friends. This scene isn't explicit about it, but it gives serious romance vibes with the colors and the music and the way they interact. If nothing else, it's fucking adorable. I think that's also what was missing when Steven was practicing with the gems. Between him and Connie, there's a unique connection. Besides the possible romantic thing, they're basically each other's only friend. At this point in the series, Steven has the same connection with each of the gems, their parental figures. He can't fuse with them because he sees them as a unit, not yet as individuals.
Why is your sandal too small for your feet?
When Stevonnie first forms, they have trouble getting the pronouns right, switching between your and my, part of adapting to having two brains in one body. I'll try to get that right. Despite Stevonnie looking like a woman and being voiced by a woman, they is technically correct. I'll be spending a lot of time talking about the mental side of fusion, so for now, let's talk about appearance. Stevonnie has a lot of shared physical features from Steven and Connie, but with other fusions, some features get averaged and some get compounded. In Stevonnie's case, their face, skin color, and hair get averaged, while their heights and seemingly their age get compounded. No extra limbs or eyes, though. Also, their clothes get layered together, which seems really tight and uncomfortable. Also, what happened to this rope thing that was part of Connie's dress?
I'm a fusion.
I like that they got the voice actress to do a bit of Steven's laugh. It's a fantastic touch. God damn, this character was so well crafted.
Pearl, look at Garnet.
This is the happiest Garnet's been since she played Steven Tag. Also, it's another hint toward her being a fusion. It's a very subtle hint, less obvious than her having 2 gems.
A gem fusing with a human being? It's impossible.
Impossible? No, it's magic. I've seen videos and read about people trying to dissect this, saying that Stevonnie's impossible because Connie isn't a gem and her body can't turn into light. However, Stevonnie is one of the most well-written, thoroughly planned out elements of this show, and they just work. They just make sense. I'm willing to let the soft magic just exist. Let the idea that it's magic do all the heavy lifting.
It's impossible. Or at the very least, inappropriate.
Do you think Pearl's thinking about how Steven came to be between Rose and Greg? I think this is where a lot of the misconception of fusion equating to sex comes from. I mean, in addition to the provocative dancing. Amethyst has some sort of frog throat thing going on here for like a split second.
How does it feel, Steven? Connie? Stevonnie?
I feel like I'm the only person to say this, but I kind of hate the name Stevonnie. There's kind of an idea throughout the show that fusions get to pick their own name, and Stevonnie doesn't get that luxury. Amethyst just makes up a Dragon Ball style fusion name and it sticks. As creative as this character is, I wish their name was at the same level, but alas.
I'm glad you're enjoying yourselves, but you two should unfuse this instant.
This is the second time that Pearl's committed the cardinal sin of telling a fusion to unfuse.
Pearl, you were so worried Steven wouldn't be able to do this. Aren't you proud of him?
There's the fusions talking about their counterparts thing that I mentioned earlier. Stevonnie is here, Steven and Connie are not. They're 3 different characters, so they talk about each other as if they're different characters. I like how they kind of get it right away.
You are not 2 people, and you are not 1 person. You are an experience.
This phrasing of them being an experience is intentionally vague, as with fusion as a whole. I should say now that basically all of the analysis that I'm making about Stevonnie and fusion is entirely my interpretation of it, because the show doesn't have a 20-minute explanation of the magic system. Fusion is less about magic and more about symbolism, and what it symbolizes seems to change depending on the fusion and depending on what the show wants to talk about. The thing about symbolism is that it's inherently up to interpretation. Everyone's gonna have their own thoughts, and these videos are all my own. This is pretty. This is one of my favorite shots in all of Season 1. But where are we? Where is this cliff? I've never seen it before, and I don't think we ever see it again. And then when they wash up on the beach, they're right by the big donut. Did they just drift for a couple hours until they made it here? Stevonnie doesn't have extra arms or anything, but do you think human fusions could have, like, extra organs? Extra stomachs or 2 hearts or something? New headcanon, Stevonnie has 2 hearts. There's no supporting evidence to that one.
How can I help me?
I get Stevonnie is supposed to be attractive, but stumble over your words attractive? There just ain't no way. I don't think anyone's pure looks could turn me into a bumbling idiot. Maybe it's just a cartoon thing, or maybe I haven't met the right person yet. What the fuck? Don't get water everywhere. You should have done that outside of the store.
2 donuts, please.
What's the deal with ordering here? Like, yeah, you want donuts, it's the big goddamn donut. What kind? There's like a glazillion different donuts you could order. If you don't like and subscribe, Roundhead Lars is gonna be at the foot of your bed tonight.
Oh, nothing. It's on the house.
That isn't a very sound business practice.
Well, they don't need to sell donuts. The sound business practice is laundering money. What kind of money? Drugs, human trafficking, embezzlement, bank robberies, illegal firearms? I have no idea. This boardwalk is rendered in 3D. That's like the second time they've rendered an environment in 3D for no reason.
2 donuts. 1 for me and 1 for... me.
This is where the alone together part of this episode starts coming into place. Steven and Connie are together, but they're not here. Stevonnie is here, and they're totally alone. It's gotta be a weird sensation. It's probably an allegory as well, but I couldn't tell you for what. It could be anything. That's the thing about allegories.
Yeah, at the warehouse. I'm DJing, and a bunch of my friends from the internet are gonna be there. There's gonna be free... glow sticks?
A bunch of friends from the internet? First of all, it's a shame that Sour Cream and Ronaldo never got an episode together or something. Second, a bunch of internet friends? Meeting up with one is a feat. Shoutouts to Stupid and the Rarest Gino, the only internet friends I've ever met in person so far. If you zoom in really close, you can see some Keep Each City Weird graffiti here. Speaking of which, here's the blog post from this episode. Full moon, interesting. I'm actually surprised in an episode that takes place entirely at night, we're only now seeing the moon. This is also the same warehouse that appeared in Tiger Millionaire, where the wrestling matches take place. It's the de facto event center of Beach City, I suppose. All of these nameless background characters are designed based on people who worked on the show. I couldn't tell you who is who though, because I have no idea what most of those people look like. Kevin's introduction is perfect for how the show wants you to see him. Everyone here is having a good time, and Kevin's just being a fucking downer. I'm no DJ, at least not professionally, but do you really need more than one Game Boy for this? That's real, by the way. There's music software you can get for old game devices like this.
I thought this was a dance party. Why isn't anyone else dancing?
Cause you fucking showed them all up, Stevonnie. No more dancing has to be done, you did it all already. There's a lot of ways this scene could be interpreted. Anxiety for sure, but it's partly everyone's eyes are on me, partly am I doing this right, but mostly I don't really know anyone else here. The colors are symbolic. It's like a deep ocean color. It's like they're drowning and can't get to the surface. The fact that the colors are so different from the rest of this episode makes the scene extra uncomfortable as well.
Get ready. It's Kevin time.
God, he's so fucking corny. I like Kevin, he makes a good antagonist. He's designed to be hated, which can be good if written correctly. Weirdly enough, I don't hate Kevin that much, at least in this episode. He's more of an asshole in later episodes, but in this one he just hits on Stevonnie and doesn't quite get that they're not interested. I don't think that's asshole behavior. He's just a bit stupid.
You're supposed to like this. Why don't we like this?
Not enough LSD? But seriously, this scene seems to be a lot less about fusion and more about social anxiety. I think Stevonnie works well as a vehicle to tell that kind of story, where a younger kid like Steven wouldn't. Stevonnie is an adult, I think. And I see this as a story of an adult coming to terms with being an introvert, and not enjoying things like loud raves. From a fusion perspective, maybe it's Steven's extroversion coming in conflict with Connie's introversion. That's why they say this line.
I don't understand what's wrong. You have fun dancing, but this dance isn't fun.
Steven would love this, but Connie would hate the attention, so Stevonnie doesn't have any idea what they're supposed to think. How does this show go from one of the nicest looking shots in the episode to one of the worst back to back? How does that even happen?
Because we're angels walking among garbage people.
Angels? Abrahamic religion confirmed canon? There have been other allusions to religion, the heaven beetle, the moon goddess statue, things like that. But angels are almost exclusively Abrahamic, as far as I know. If I'm wrong, some of you are going to tell me in the comments. You always do. You know, I think you'd need 2 hearts to move like this. I do like 3 jumping jacks and I can feel it in my chest. I'm also still sick, so that doesn't help. That's actually the same sound they use when Amethyst summons her whip. It happens a couple occasions when Stevonnie unfuses, but not for other fusions, weirdly. Damn, actual glow sticks? Lame. I was hoping glow sticks was some kind of code word for drugs. This rave sucks. I'm sure Stevonnie would agree with me. This episode is awesome, almost on the same level as the last one. I love these kind of stories that are kind of inconclusive and leave a lot open to interpretation. When they're done well, they beat out any story that leaves no loose ends and nothing open to interpretation. There's a reason that No Country for Old Men is my favorite movie. But this is one of those episodes that made me want to start gemology. I think I've watched this episode of Steven Universe more than any other episode in the whole show, and every time I watch it, I have some different thoughts or interpretations on it. I think that's why this episode exists. It gets you thinking. That's what makes fusion so interesting too. The deeper meaning behind it is different for each fusion, and maybe even different for each viewer. On a surface level, this episode is really pretty to look at. I love the warm evening colors. More magic is also nice. I love an episode where Steven can unlock a power. And fusion is a big deal in the magic system. In fact, it's probably the biggest deal in the entire magic system. Fusion makes up more than 50% of the discussion about this show. And for good reason, it's the most unique magical element in the show. Which goes a long way when all the other magic is derivative of other media. And if you want to see new episodes a week before they premiere on YouTube, you can subscribe to my Patreon for just a couple bucks. The link is in the description as always. Shoutouts to my Journeyman patrons, Henri Wickers, Bananas Are Violet, Boomblurp, Gage M, Cinderant, Scala LD, and the Tamara. Also shoutouts to these apprentice patrons. Next episode, the Green Demon appears.